I always enjoy hearing a little bit about what happened the night before, and I did hear there was some karaoke last night with the training directors. I missed that. I'm disappointed. But tonight it's even going to get better because now it's going to be Irish karaoke, right? I don't know what that looks like, but it should be interesting. Well, it's nice to see all of you. My name is Cheri, Marti. I am with the Center for Transportation Studies at the University of Minnesota, and work closely with Jim Grodhaus with our LTAP program. Jim is the director of that program. And this morning, we're here to talk about partnerships. And I know that this is a group that's very familiar with partnerships, so I am pleased that you're here. And truly, we all know that partnerships play a critical role in carrying out and advancing the technology transfer initiatives within our states, within any of our organizations, and that's nothing new to all of you. But what we want to do today is really have an opportunity to look at how can we improve those existing partnerships and leverage those partnerships, as well as create new opportunities for partnerships and really get down into what are some strategies that we can use to address some barriers and challenges, as well as opportunities that our panelists will be featuring. So we are featuring 5 organizations in our panel, and that's a great starting point for us. But we know that there are many more partnership organizations represented in our conference this week. So what I wanted to offer is that our intention is to generate ideas and applications not only to strengthening the connections with our partner organizations represented in the panel, but give you something that can reach beyond these 5 into other partnerships that are important to you, that you are considering either developing, strengthening, establishing. So clearly, some of the strategies that we're going to be talking about can be transferred and applied to other partnerships. So we hope that you walk away today with something that you can take back at home and put into action. So that's why we're here. So we appreciate you being here. And I think just to begin, why don't you turn, hopefully you've got your notebooks with you. If you don't, it's not a huge deal. If you turn to tab 5 is what I'd like to ask you to do. And if you happen to take a look at your notebook and read through that, great. If not, we can work with that. But we've got a cover memo, just kind of giving you the overall structure of our session this morning. And then the next page, I just wanted to highlight this page. This is just a one-pager on considerations for enhancing your partnerships for technology transfer. And again, I know that this isn't anything new to you, but I think it's a good takeaway for you, a resource that you can leave with this session and use it to help evaluate, plan for, strengthen your own partnerships. And one comment that I do want to make is at the bottom, you've got a sequence for examining partnership issues. And this is just something that I've read along the way, and I think it's really true, that if we are struggling with some tensions within our partnerships, or there is some concern in the partnership, most often we turn to the third item, the item under structure. We turn to roles and responsibilities, defining those, and to kind of get us out of what feels like a partnership that isn't as strong as it could be. Now, that's not a bad thing to do, but oftentimes, and there is a sequence, that we need to bring it up a notch, that perhaps it's not just a role clarification, but we have to look at the processes that are being used, how you're working together, how we're communicating, how we're making decisions. That's very important, and oftentimes the processes that are existing within that partnership are not clear. And even more importantly, is item number 1, is the philosophy around the partnership. Do you have complementary missions? They can be different, but they do need to complement each other. Are you operating from a different value structure? And so I just want to present that to you, because if your partnerships are struggling look at those kind of 3 levels and really consider going up to that highest level where you're looking at the vision of that partnership, the commitments that are there, the mission. So I just wanted to plant that seed with you. Okay, with that, we'll just turn the page. And what I'd like to do is just give you a quick rundown as how we're going to run this session today. We are going to have the panel members give you briefings of their organizations. They each will have 5 minutes, and that's why we've created these one-pagers for you. So as they go through their briefing, you can follow along, and they're going to highlight what they want to highlight from that one-pager. So they're going to talk about briefly what their organization is about, what their partnership needs, challenges, and opportunities, and contributions. What do they have to bring to the table for partnership and technology transfer? Following each presentation, we'll take a quick minute or 2 to see if you've got any clarifying questions. We're going to hold on any and expounding on comments, but if you've got a question that you just go, you know what, this doesn't really make sense to me, that's where we'd like to try to answer those questions, is right after each briefing. We'll do that quickly. After our briefings by each of the panel members, just right at your table, stand up, stretch a bit if you need to refill your water, but it's not an official break. It's just really to kind of stretch and a transition before we move into our small group discussions. So in our small groups, we do have a facilitator and a recorder that's been identified for each table. I understand that we might be lacking some folks, but I'm pretty sure our facilitators and recorders have at least shown up. So we are very comfortable once we get to that point. If your table is shy on people, feel free to combine with another table. That's not an issue. All right, the even number table, so look at the number at your table, and if you're an even number table, we're going to ask you to respond to the following question. Considering the most pressing barriers to effective T-square partnerships, what are potential strategies in addressing those barriers? Now, these can be barriers that our panel highlighted. They can also be your own barriers, okay? But that's the group, so if you're sitting at an even number table, you're going to be talking about barriers and strategies to address them. On the flip side, if you're sitting at an odd number table, we're asking you to think about opportunities. So considering the areas of greatest opportunities presented by our panel and opportunities that you're aware of, what are potential strategies that we can use to build and capitalize and leverage those opportunities? So that's it. Then we'll come back as a full group. So we'll reconvene, and we're just going to have an informal report out. Not every table necessarily is going to give a full report. That's not what we're looking for, but I'll just be facilitating that, and we just want to hear some of the ideas that were generated on both the barriers and opportunities, and we'll do that in a full group. And then finally, we'll have our panelists just give some final reflections from the session that they heard, and we'll wrap up. So that's the plan. All right, so with that, I think we're just going to move right into our panel member briefings. And if you turn to your notebook, you've got the one-pagers right there in front of you. And we're going to take the order of the briefings that's listed in your notebook. All right, with our panel members, I started to begin with Ray Belk. He's the Director of Training and Quality and Development with the Texas DOT. He is also the President of the National Transportation Training Directors, or NTDD. So with that, I will turn it over to Ray.
Thanks, Cheri. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Well, I'm glad to see so many folks up and moving at 8 o'clock in the morning, especially the ones I was out with last night. They finally kicked us out of the karaoke bar. We were just having way too much fun. But I'm here to give you a few views of what the National Transportation Directors is all about. The association was formed back in the 1980s, well before I ever came to work in the transportation industry myself. And since that time, they've been a very viable and very closely formed partnership. And what they're all about is what we call shamelessly stealing from each other, what a lot of other folks call open course content or material. We have our own network within NTTD of where we share courses relating to just about anything. We're into training the entire individual. And that's one thing that all organizations at this symposium have in common, is the individual, the employee of whether the DOT, the LTAP, the contractor, the consultant, whoever it is. They have one thing in common, and that's workforce development, training that individual. Well, what NTTD focuses on is not only the technical skills, but the leadership and the soft skills also that makes up the entire whole person. That's what we bring to the table in our strength. We don't focus on a particular area, we look at the individual as a whole. Now, Cheri was mentioning, I'm not going to sit here and read this to you because you got time to go back and do that, but I'm going to hit a few highlights and talk about a couple of things that we discussed in our state sharing meeting yesterday when we had everybody in. The first bullet again is the total workforce development. Open, honest communication. We share our resources openly. In other words, if I develop a course in Texas and somebody in Massachusetts wants it, here it is, it's yours, you can have it. And conversely, if I'm looking for a course on a particular topic or subject, California may say, here it is, and I'll take it and modify it to my use. We have that open sharing. It's something that we bring to the table, and we want everybody to foster that particular philosophy. We have a common panel where we talk to other organizations. This meeting, right off the bat, Drew down here is going to talk to you in a little bit, was there from the LTAP. We had the TC3 group and the NTTD, and we were looking at what can we do as three organizations to come closer together. And I don't want to steal the thunder or anything like that, but let's just say there's a lot of works that are going on in the background right now that you'll see things coming forward, that you're going to see things a lot stronger. And Clark, what was the word that you used? Corporate approach, I guess, more? Corporate communities, yeah. So you're going to be seeing some of those things. Some of our challenges is fragmented training programs within an organizational structure. I have this challenge in Texas myself. Sometimes a particular division will run out there and do something, and then they deliver the training, and then they go, oh yeah, by the way, Ray, I need to use your budget, or Ray, I need a training code, or I need some way to track. And it's like, well, what have you done? And I think you can probably identify with those particular things also within your organizations and within your own individual DOTs and companies as well. So that's one of our big challenges is overcoming that from time to time. Consistent application of same training for DOT personnel versus for the contractors. In Texas, and this is happening across NTTD as well, DOTs are starting to partner with AGC, asphalt producers, the private industry, because what's good for your employees in the DOT is also good for the employees in the private industry. We have an expectation when we set forth a specification. If we tell them, not only in the specification, but in the training and the workforce development as well, they can go out there and do that job that much better. So those partnerships are critical, and it's something that we would like to see fostered forward. Technology infrastructure. NTTD is lacking that right now. We do not have a common website, but we're looking for ways to capitalize on the resources of other organizations and a common depository of information as well. Well, if you take advantage of the organizational structure that we have in NTTD, the way we network, the way we talk to each other, the open sourcing, the concept of the whole person development, that's what we can bring to the table for you. Some specific things that were brought to me yesterday at our meeting also is, instead of getting together once a year, the way we're doing now, or every other year in our meetings, we need to start meeting quarterly, but not necessarily in person. We have technology at our disposal, and that's what the conference is all about. Video conferencing, webcasting, direct listservs, that open, honest exchange of information. But we need to have a partner who can take the lead in that and push it forward, because we can talk it all we want, but until we have that other mechanisms in place, it really won't happen. My time is up.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You did it, 5 minutes. Very good, he set the bar, panel. All right, any clarifying questions for Ray? Okay, then why don't we move on then to Bonnie West. Bonnie is the Assistant Executive Director with the National Association of County Engineers. And Bonnie, why don't you come on up?
Thank you. Yes, this 5 minutes is tough because I have a 9-month-old baby and I could just go on and on about her. But one thing about effective partnerships is having a baby definitely shows you how effective your partnership is on a personal level. In terms of NACE, the National Association of County Engineers, this is actually my 9th anniversary. And if you all know my boss, Tony Giancola, that's quite an accomplishment and an effective partnership. What I joke about is that we balance each other out, and that's the nice way of saying we have an effective partnership. NACE, obviously, we are the county engineers, the road and bridge managers. This is the 50th year for NACE. The missions, and again, you have lots of detail in front of you, so I'll quiz you later after you've had a chance to read that. But, I mean, certainly the exchange of information, the technology transfer exchange among our members, among our state affiliates, which we have 30. We're always looking to get more state affiliates and to support and foster that. A strong state affiliate, in turn, is a strong national organization for us. We also encourage partnerships with other organizations. We, not only in terms of technology transfer, but obviously on the legislative piece, all kinds of things that will promote the industry, that will promote transportation on the local level, which is where we're focused. We also would like to just emphasize the safety and training. I mean, that's our #1 goal in terms of, in addition to our, what I call the real job of the county engineers, is really that safety piece when it comes down to it, everything that they do and the services that they provide for their county. Our needs also tie into our opportunities, I think. The training piece is one of the biggest pieces. We rely heavily on the LTAP Association, on the LTAP centers in terms of our training. We support it, we foster it, we encourage it. We really rely on it. And we're open to other partnerships in terms of training and safety. A good example is this low-cost local road safety solutions, which we did in partnership with ATSA. There was a need for it, and they had the resources and we had the resources in terms of NACE to get it done, and now it's published and available for use to get it out there. We're very pleased with that. In terms of other needs, we have needs for technical assistance and for help with our annual conference. We work in conjunction. A great example is this past year in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We work very closely with the Michigan LTAP, and they provided technical training and resources and probably things that I couldn't even number right here, but we certainly appreciated that, and it's another good example of a strong state relationship and a strong partnership with NACE. In terms of our action and training guides, NACE is 50 years old. I like to think that the training guides are not that old, but you know, some of them are getting to be 80s and 90s. So we're looking for help in terms of technical assistance, see if they're still relevant, see what needs to be updated. It's not a glorious thing in terms of an opportunity, but it certainly is asking for your knowledge and input in addition to our members' knowledge and their expertise. Another thing is just information exchange. I mean, we reprint articles and information all the time. I think this is probably, I know 3 or 4 months in a row we've reprinted articles from LTAP and from other folks. We take information from them and just make sure that we want to be a source and a way and an avenue of getting that information out there to our members and to our partners. Finally, we also support the local road coordinators, and we also, part of those challenges are just some things just don't get off the ground. We either have a weak relationship in the state, there's either just a great idea that just has fallen through the cracks, and I think Representative Oberstar talked about yesterday how those great ideas happen at conferences. Somehow they get on the shelf. We just need to make sure that we encourage those partnerships and get, like from this session, just get it back home and get it instituted and follow up and get those things going. I really, really am pleased to be here today. I think that we certainly can learn from each other, and talk to me later if you have any questions or if you have any ideas or anything. I'm certainly open to that, and I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Bonnie. Very good. Thank you, Bonnie. Any questions for Bonnie? Okay. We'll move on. Our next speaker panelist is Bob Freudenthal. He's the president of American Public Works Association, and he is with the Hendersonville Utility District in Tennessee. Bob?
Thank you, and good morning. Thank you for allowing me to attend your invitation to this event. This is my second time to be with the large group of LTAP folks, and it's good to be with you. But more importantly, thank you for being a part of what makes a difference in the quality of life of what people do in our communities and in our world. And you are a part of APWA's success story, and I thank you for that involvement. Many of the folks that work in LTAPs, et cetera, are active members of our association, and many of our chapters, we have 64 chapters across the United States and Canada, and many of them derive some of their success greatly and some of their support through LTAP folks like Patsy in Kentucky and the folks in Tennessee and that sort of thing in my home region. They're very active and very key. We also have active people within your organizations that participate with us at Congress. Lisa Harris, I think, is going to moderate a session for us at this year's Congress, which is in Kansas City, September 10th through the 13th. We'll have about 6,000 public works professionals there for that. We are an organization that has its roots for over 100 years ago, and then we formed as APWA, I think, in around 1937. We have 27,000 members in the U.S. and Canada, and we have alliances with other countries throughout the world: Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and are talking to some others as well. So we reach a broad base, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, because we do have to cover all areas of public works. There are over 250,000 professionals within the public works infrastructure field today in the United States, and we would like to have all of them join our association, but that may not be possible quite yet. We'll work on that. But also we want to educate each individual member. Our focus as an association, as stated earlier by the others, is the individual member. We're here to grow leaders, and we're here to make a difference in what we do. Through that, our strategic plan covers three basic things: education, which is what we are founded on and what we are primarily an association to do, but advocacy and resource. We spend a lot of time working on the Hill on various issues. In this case, the highway bill that didn't take too long to pass, only 9 years. And as such, we have formed a new committee to start on the next highway bill, because frankly, we gave retirement benefits to everybody that worked on the last one. We actually gave them certificates of appreciation and retirement for their effort. But our strategic effort and our vision at APWA mirrors a lot of what you do. We want to bring value to our member, value to our profession, and we want to do it in an efficient and effective way. And one of the ways you do that is partner with other like associations. We partner with LTAP and the T-Square and tribal councils, as you've seen and we talked about, but we also work heavily with other organizations. ITE, for example, we have a strategic alliance, formal alliance with Federal Highway Administration, and have worked with them and enjoy that relationship, as well as other infrastructure type things, American Water Works Association and SWANA and all those associations as well. We do that because that provides value to our member, and we do that because that's an effective way to reach people and grow people, and that's what we're all here for. We certainly want to provide better opportunities for that. We want to partner wherever we can. We feel like we do bring some things to the table that are beneficial. Our education director, Patricia Cutt, is here, and I think she's giving a talk tomorrow on some of those things, and she will have some information for you. We have an education calendar. I don't know if you have enough for everybody, but they look sort of like this. We offer various modes of reaching out. One of the most popular things we have recently is our Click, Listen, and Learn sessions, which are cheap, innovative ways of just doing web-based training. They're very low cost and they're open to anyone, and we can do one in fairly short order if need be. And we have done that in the past on various things. We also do live events as well as a full-blown web seminar that's coming up on construction inspection. We offer certification efforts that we're just now getting into for our members. The first one rolling out is fleet certification, fleet manager. And then we're partnering with professional grounds maintenance for a ground certification. And then the next one that'll hit the streets will be construction inspection, which is very important for the folks involved in this group in reaching out to the public and the private sector as far as that goes. Additionally, we offer accreditation to agency memberships across the country. As far as individual cities, I think we have some 35 of those now with another 15 in the pipeline. These bring ownership, these bring value, these bring recognition, and they bring honor to the profession. We're all in a profession that is public service, and there is no higher calling than serving your fellow man. Thank you for doing that. We strive to do that, and let's work together to make sure that our community is the best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All right, well, you guys are getting the drill, so any questions? All right. Well, let's keep moving. We've got Bruce Drews as our next panelist, and he is the Training and Research Manager with the Idaho LTAP program, and he's also president of the National Local Technical Assistance Program Association. So with that, I'll hand it over to Bruce.
Thank you. A couple of things that were brought out yesterday that I want to take and bring out to you initially. Tony Kane was talking about the infrastructure of the United States. And in that discussion, he indicated that there's 5.5 million miles of roadway in the United States. And if you take a look at the information that Tony provided with us, that about, less than 20% of that is state-owned. That means that over 3.5 million miles of roadway is maintained by local jurisdictions, those counties, those cities, those types of organizations. So it's a major investment that we have in those local jurisdictions. And as part of that, the Federal Highway Administration in 1982 established LTAP. It was actually called the Rural Technical Assistance Program, and then turned into the LTAP program, which there's 51 centers that are called LTAPs that deal with those local jurisdictions. Then there's 7 tribal technical assistance programs. Those deal with the tribal entities, and they serve those tribal entities are scattered over a large area of the United States. So we have a large client base that we work with. And to be very frank, without the assistance of organizations like NACE, APWA, AASHTO, it'd be very hard for our LTAP organization with the funding levels that we currently have to do what we do without that assistance. And so what I'd like to do now is to take a look at what is LTAP. Like I said, there's 58 centers total, including our center down in Puerto Rico, our 7 tribal centers. But of the 51 centers, or of the 58 centers, there's 13 of them that are located in the DOT. We have 2 private centers, and the rest are university-based centers. So we have a pretty diverse organization. And we actually were able to provide in 2004 about 5,000 training events to our local jurisdictions. Some of our challenges is resources, finding the trainers, the educators to do the training events, to deal with all the population that we work with. We also have the issue of taking those limited resources and leveraging them. We leveraging them just say in the same format as NTTD. We take and beg, borrow, steal, abscond, do anything that we can to find those resources for our local jurisdiction. And we have a very close-knit community in the LTAP organization. And without, like I mentioned, the assistance of NACE, APWA, AASHTO, the SALT Institute, our other partner, we would have a very difficult time leveraging all the resources that we need. Some of the things that we do bring into the organization or bring into a partnership organization is our willingness to leverage those resources, work with other organizations, and we're actually currently in discussion with NTTD, the TCCC group, which is the Transportation Core Curriculum Council, taking a look at how do we take and work with this entire body of transportation professionals. How do we take and provide that training and resource? And if you take a look at the documentation that comes out of Federal Highways and other organizations, they're talking about a turnover of 40 to 50% of that transportation workforce. So that's a very large challenge to all of our organizations. How are we going to meet those expectations and those needs? And the only way that I can see to be able to do that is for us to work together, share our resources, share our information, and this is the beginning of that opportunity. This meeting, this organization, and this discussion. And with that, I'd like to take and be able to offer as much time as possible to the roundtable discussions. So I'll go ahead and close my remarks at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. Any questions for Bruce at this point? All right, we'll keep her moving. We've got Dick Hanneman. He is the president of the SALT Institute, which is located in Alexandria, Virginia. So, Dick.
Thanks, Cheri. We've had a lot of descriptive information. I'd like to go quickly through who we are. We are a trade association, so we represent for-profit companies, unlike everybody else who's spoken today. So it's a little different animal. We're founded in 1914, and we're global, so our interest in the U.S. can be contrasted to our interest in other places. For example, I've had tremendous challenge doing in Canada what we do so easily, working in partnership with the National LTAP Association here in the States. So that was an interesting contrast for us. But I did want to tell you our main issues are involved in advocacy, but part of our advocacy issues management is to make sure that issues don't rise to the level where we need to go and work on them in legislatures or in regulatory bodies. And so since the early 1970s, we've had a program called Sensible Salting. That program is to train our customers, who are also the LTAP customers, who are the public works agencies, the county and the municipal as well as state transportation agencies, on how to use less of our product. When that program, Sensible Salting, was announced, it won an award because it was so novel that we would teach our customers to use less of our product. And yet that has been, in fact, been what we've been doing. And people keep saying, well, if you go to anti-icing and you reduce the amount of salt by 30%, isn't that going to be terrible for your business? And I said, but the business will be around for 30 more years. So that's really how we're looking at this, as a long-term opportunity to provide safe highways and reliable transportation in the winter. I also mentioned to Bob that we are closely involved. I've been going to APWA meetings since 1978 and serve on the APWA Winter Maintenance Subcommittee and as a co-director, co-chair of their training subcommittee. So this is something that we partner with in other venues, but our partnership of now, I guess it's close to 10 years or so with LTAP has been something. I just wanted to share some of the lessons, and they are written on this sheet, but just to highlight a few. Our experience, I think, is going to be the same as any other partner that you would have, and so I'd like to be a little analytic about that for a while. We need to have a commitment. So we need to know that what's important to us as your partner is important to you. that if we want to come and invest, as I've invested time coming to meetings, invest time in developing materials and everything, that those are valued equally by our partner. We need to know our partner is capable of delivering the training. We're working with you because previous to that, we had our own network of trainers who went out. We found out they could only train maybe 1,000 or 1,500 operators, snowplow operators, spreader operators in the course of a year. We think that working with a larger organization that puts on many seminars, we should be able to do much more with less. So it's, again, the principle of leverage you're very familiar with. We think that there should be a shared vision. And sometimes when I speak to somebody from, Atlanta or something like that, they say, we don't know if we share your vision. But we see that safe highways are endangered every time there's an ice storm, and places like Little Rock and Charlotte and Atlanta, or even Dallas, are immobilized by ice storms. So it's really every agency here, perhaps excepting Hawaii, and I'd give our host state probably a pass as well. But I've actually been in Tampa where we had frost warnings out, so I know it does happen. Institutional capacity is very important to us. And going back for a minute on the shared vision, you have a very important role not only in serving by organizing, for example, winter maintenance seminars and workshops, but by working with your other partners, the NACE and APWA chapters, to say, isn't this something that you would like? Isn't this something that your members would value? And to help make the case for why training is important. That is something that we look to you as our partner to do, is to make the case for training. Institutional capacity of organizing and delivering workshops, you have that in place. That's very important to us. And having a sufficient number of trainers capable. We have an LTAP Winter Maintenance Committee, and one of the things we've been discussing is, are all of our trainers, who are, many of them, retired from your agencies, are they also going to be retiring as trainers? And so do we have a sufficient training workforce for the future? Quality instructional materials, that is what is the product of the partnership as we've seen it so far. Yes, we've organized trainer listserv, and we've had other materials, but primarily it's classroom instructional materials that we have. How many of you, just by a show of hands, are aware that you have available to you free 4 sets of materials and a 5th one for $20 that you've been given free on snow fighting? Can I see a show of hands? Are you aware of it? Every center has been given free materials. They're freely downloadable from the internet, so all of your individual instructors could also have them. But what we need as your partner is reports back on the training outcomes. We need to have continuous feedback, not only so we can continue to improve, but so we can continue to have the resources available. If we're not training more than 1,500 snow fighters using this way, we'll have to look and see whether or not we should have another method. In Canada, for example, in Ontario, we worked with Ontario Good Roads Association and the APWA Ontario chapter to replicate what an LTAP center does. And they have trained 1,500 people in that province alone. So they have that vision. I challenge you to have that vision with us, that if you have roads that are impacted by snow and ice, that you use the materials that we've been developed, that you let us know, let the committee members know how those materials can be improved, so that next year when we have this meeting and roll out another set of materials, that those are even more valuable to you than those that we've developed already. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, panel members, for your succinct comments, and we appreciate that, and really giving us some base information to start thinking in our small groups about our barriers and our opportunities and what strategies that we could generate in looking at how to address those. So what we're going to do now is we are going to move into those small groups. So you're all positioned at your round tables, and what we'd like to do is give you about 5 minutes to stretch your legs. What I'd like to offer is, in these discussions, keep in mind that we're brainstorming. So we really don't need to evaluate necessarily the merit of our ideas, but really I think our goal is to just generate as many ideas as possible. I will offer that because we do have a recorder at each table, those comments will be captured and will be part of a session summary that will be available to all of you following the conference. Okay, so all those ideas will be brought forward. So with that, why don't our facilitators indicate who you are? Why don't you raise your arm? That would be great, so we could see if every table has a facilitator. Clark, why don't you look around? Because if all facilitators could just raise your hand. Just want to make sure that every table has a facilitator. If not, Clark will come around and we will take care of that. All right, so why don't we just again, the even tables will address barriers and the odd tables will address the opportunities. And our goal is to generate as many strategies as possible. We'll come together again at 9:15. So at 9:15, we will have the full group discussion. All right, thank you. We have 4 folks that have roaming microphones, and we are ready to start taking comments from our groups. What we want to do here is just really start to have a large group discussion about some of the ideas that were generated in your small groups, and we'll kind of do this informally. We'll build on each other's ideas, and we'll just see where this goes. So we're going to take the next 25 minutes to do this. And I'd like to start with looking at the discussion that took place on the barriers side. So half of the tables looked at what are the most pressing barriers and what are some potential strategies to address those barriers to effective technology transfer partnerships. So with that, I'm going to ask, so we have either the facilitator or the group designee to offer a comment, and I'm just going to open it up. So for our odd facilitators, we'll start with our odd facilitators. Who is the most odd? Oh! I am odd. You're correct. We do want even. Thank you. All right, so let's start with our even barriers. Who's got a comment?
Do you want all the barriers that we
No, what I'd like to do is I'd like you to state a barrier,
okay,
and then 1 or 2 strategies only, may not be all of them, but just 1 or 2 strategies for that barrier. And then we're going to see if others had that same barrier. So listen, if you also had that barrier and you have a different strategy, I'd like you to talk about that different strategy, okay? We don't want to repeat a lot of the same ideas. So go ahead.
One of our barriers that we talked about was identification of potential partners, along with general rules for working together. And as far as strategies identified, is that up front, everybody has to come into the meeting with an open mind, and you have to identify the goals of the different organizations early on in the process. Mm-hmm. And along those lines is you can't have people coming in with hidden agendas. That's sometimes, obviously, if somebody's coming in with a hidden agenda, it's going to be difficult to identify it because they're not trying to let them know what it is.
Right.
Along with those is making sure that people don't come into it saying, I don't want to do that, I can't do that, that's not possible. You know, you're at the beginning of the meeting, you're looking at the potential out there. You're not trying to actually solve a problem or come up with a final solution. So everybody has to come in with an open mind.
Okay, very good. So others that have found that a barrier is trying to identify those potential partners and trying to find that common ground up front. Do you have any other strategies that relate to that barrier or that challenge? Any of our facilitators? Okay, Mary?
One strategy we came up for that would be, we think that the executive committees of each of the organizations that presented today and maybe other ones who may be involved ought to meet together and get to know each other, rather than all of, at the state level, everyone trying to know each other. If the executive committee groups knew each other and knew what was going on and could communicate it back to their groups, and open up that communication
Right.
further. Have
Great.
regular meetings together, not
Okay.
just one time every 4 years.
Yep, so building a relationship over time with some of those key partners. Very good. Other strategies that address this, finding those potential partners in the common ground. Over here. Yeah, Al.
Very similar to what Mary had just mentioned, we thought that educating our CEOs of our individual organizations about the barriers and some of the strategies, and more importantly, the impacts of not partnering and overcoming these barriers, so that perhaps without the infusion of more people and more dollars, they have the power to loosen perhaps existing resources to assure that they can try to overcome those barriers internally. And then, of course, there's that sharing that happens at a much lower level. But if you keep the CEOs aware of the major issues at a very high level, they, of course, have their own forums to talk and share amongst each other, and perhaps can loosen existing resources to overcome some of those barriers.
So a question I have, Al, is would you engage those kind of executive folks of these organizations early on, just at the point of identifying the potential partnership? At what point would you engage them? What do you think, group?
I'll tell you, my experience and my sense is you probably don't want to bring them on to so early so that the only thing that you have to say is we have a problem. But rather, we have a problem and this is what we think we can do to help address that problem. Present them with options.
Okay.
Have
good.
them make that executive decisions, but present them with options. So early, but not too early, I guess, is the is
Okay.
the response.
So have something for them to react to. Very good. I saw some other hands over here. Got one in back, and then, yep, if you want to give the microphone to the fellow in the pink. We'll start with the pink, and then we'll go over.
Peach, yes.
Peach, pink. You know, I like a man who can wear peach pink.
Our table in identifying partners, we were very strong on the topic that for-profit organizations cannot effectively partner with public agencies, and we were concerned that puts us into a difficult position in choosing sides and asking us to be biased. We want to remain unbiased, but our solution to that was to use those agencies as a resource, maybe not as a partner, but use them as a resource, take their best information on how to most effectively use the product that they're promoting, but not necessarily ask us to take sides with saying your product is better than the competitor.
Okay, very good. Other comments about partnering with private entities in here, and any strategies to address that challenge? Dick? Tell you what, if you know that you've got a comment, why don't you raise your hand ahead of time, and we'll see if we can get the microphone to you ahead of time.
I was just going to say, on behalf of for-profits,
Yeah.
that you can't get, for example, Congressman Overstar touted the Cargill solution, and there are other, like fixed automated spray systems that he didn't mention. But you can talk about the generic thing of putting the de-icer on the road without sending the trucks out. And you can get the suppliers of both of those products to provide their materials or even sit with you as you design a curriculum and take advantage of what they have. You're the deliverer. You're going to have to strip out the commercial stuff. They know that.
Yep.
But they have the expertise. They want to educate your customers. So don't be reluctant to call on them. Just tell them, we're not going to do a commercial for you, but we're going to talk about the concept of putting an overlay. Well, Cargill's the only one that offers that overlay right now, but they don't have it is a Michigan State patent right there. Michigan Tech, yeah, sorry. In any case, they could obtain rights to it if they wanted to get into it. Other people can do it, but there are other solutions to fix the same problem that can be explored.
Very good. Thank you. Other comments about private? Yes.
Hi, I'm Nick Burmas. I'm with the California DOT.
Yes.
And I just want to second that point. I've just been recently involved with alternative fuels, and we're partnering with UC Davis. And there they've gotten together all the industry representatives from Nissan, Honda, Toyota, all about getting together to come up with the best strategy for alternative fuels. They don't present any hidden agendas, and I think what UC Davis did was they got the right people with the open minds together to get the job done. So it can work.
Yep.
It's all about focusing on the right individuals.
Right, and using them as a resource, what I'm hearing. Other comments about private and strategies? Lisa.
Our group talked about the possibility of having half-day train-the-trainer programs at conferences where trainers would go anyway, like the National LTAP conference. And we did that at our Bernalillo conference a few years ago on geotextiles. There was a half-day train-the-trainer. The trainers left with materials from that company, and then they could use them as they wanted to in their own training.
Yep, it was a great opportunity. John, right in back behind Lisa. New topic, new barrier.
I don't have a solution, but we talked somewhat about the cultural barriers, not just the ones that Ben Colucci mentioned yesterday of language, but age and religion and the whole cultural definition. So that's a major barrier to forming partners if you don't understand each other's culture, especially the age difference between our generations X's and so forth.
Okay, so strategies addressing cultural barriers such as age differences, different generations, as well as culture. Yes. It's John's birthday. It was John's birthday.
Happy birthday, John.
That's old, yeah. All right, happy birthday, John. It's already passed, but all right. Yes.
Lisa London, the University of Texas, Arlington. We talked also about the cultural sensitivity, and we were talking about it in a little different light, and it dovetailed with another issue that we identified, a barrier that we identified, which was not having materials and resources that were really appropriate for the end user, and part of that was about the sensitivity to different cultures.
Yep.
And so one of our solutions to that, in this fabulous table of resources here, I must say, was to involve end users in the planning from the onset in what do we hope to accomplish, what resources do we need, and not producing, thick technical manuals for a tech who's going to be, laying a pavement or hanging a sign, but to actually take all of this great science and research and involve the end user in articulating that material and resource into a very user-friendly and cultural sensitive document.
Very important, core, fundamental, and tech transfer.
I just wanted to add something to that. We also said not only the end user, but those responsible for delivering the training need to be at the table as well.
Good. I just want to comment, there was someone came up to me during the break and said, when we talk tech transfer, it is a lot more than training. And I just want to, I think we all know that, but just to agree, training, obviously, core strategy, but we've got library services and web resources, and we have publications and events and conferences. So it's the whole bag of tools that we're talking about. So that's great, and just wanted to make that comment. Yes, over here in the back.
This probably falls halfway between cultural and the previous question, which was largely on communication. But the issue is compartmenting, and the fact that organizationally we tend to become compartmented, focused on our own interests and our own missions and organizations. So two of the strategies that we talked about that help address that issue both internally and externally. One of the members indicated that he invites the directors of the Department of Transportation to attend LTAP conferences with him so that they can become aware of what is going on with the LTAP. A second one has to do with connection with national labs and partnering with other federal organizations would be appropriate here because the labs have a large warehouse of information that's available, but for example, we are totally unaware that there is a consortium of federal labs through whom that information can be accessed that we're unaware of.
Okay.
So perhaps even Federal Highway might be interested in establishing a liaison with that organization so that we could become less compartmented.
Very good. Thank you.
Cheri, I have something to add to that. When we talk about compartmentalization of what we do, we came up with the issue that really is partnerships take time in resource commitments, and how many of us are bored and don't have anything to do? We are all busy people already, doing our own thing, busy, doing, it's hard to go out, reach out, and take the time and invest something in a partnership. And so we really think that we have got to start using the technology that's available in this world to come up with some resource sharing, data websites, resource sites to not only list, have a link to the national labs, have links to all this kind of thing, a real true comprehensive data sharing, technology transfer and training sharing resource website that all of us can access and all of us know where it's at. And of course, it was suggested that Federal Highway take the lead on this, but maybe not. Maybe those executive committees that need to meet regularly can take the lead on that. But we have to come up with a way to make partnerships fit into our time that none of us have.
So having that accessible information
so you don't have
source,
to spend a lot of time looking for stuff. You know where to go. Everyone knows where to go. It's the same place to go.
Any response I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it all has to, we then have to come up with a format of how we would put these resources on. Everyone would have to share their information in a format, a similar format, so it was simple and easy. So.
Any librarians in the group that could comment on that? Nelda's there, a champion.
Yeah, Joyce Koneman with the National Transportation Library. We'd be very happy to talk with you. We are a resource repository, and we do have a wonderful new interface you should take a look at ntl.bts.gov. And we do have the capability of creating multiple collections and multiple access points. We're very proud of it since we just released it. We released it on July 12th. And Nelda's trying to tell me something else to tell you. And you can come to our workshop this afternoon, which is on organizing your information. So,
fabulous.
And content.
And that's something we all need to learn more about, that information resource. Thank you. Website?
ntl.bts.gov. And it does include TRIS Online, which you're all familiar with, I hope.
Excellent. All right. Comment here? Another barrier.
Actually, I was just going to define a little bit of the solution to some of these.
Great.
In Kansas, we're trying to real hard to approach virtually everything with partnering, ranging from working with our private contractors and partnering with them. We found there is really no problems with getting a small consortium of, say, asphalt pavers together to talk with them about what would be honest and fair specs on reclaiming asphalt or repaving, stuff like that. And everybody can put their interests on the table and discuss them fairly, and when they adopt them, we have great success. I just came out of a meeting on last week helping develop specs for those, and they chose even to how to put down penalties that were fair and honest, because all of the private folks are interested in having fair competition. And we're interested in ensuring from an ethical standpoint that happens, ranging to even the generational stuff with our trainers coming up and partnering with the local Hispanic community to put together, and the local Asian community to help put together an essential Spanish for transportation course that we're piloting. In fact, I think it's this week. And it was a partnering effort with all of the interests involved, or the individuals there, which is kind of the whole point of this. If people get together and talk to the potential interests, gaining resources like the library that you're discussing there, they should all be brought to the table from the outset to help discuss and figure out how to solve the issues you're talking about in the first place.
Very good. Okay, let's look at any other burning barriers that you want to bring up. Yes, Dwight.
Lack of vision.
Okay. What are you going to do about it? Any thoughts on strategies?
I'm asking this group to give me some strategies on how to deal with it.
Okay, so Dwight has put the challenge. Anyone else talk about lack of vision as a potential barrier to effective T-square and strategies?
We talked about the whole leadership issue,
Yes.
From the head of the top of DOT on all the way down, and also even in our own organizations to maybe be a little bit more willing to work together in more of an abundance philosophy as opposed to a competitive one. At least that's what we were getting to. And then also the whole issue, even at the decision maker level, at the local, for the locals, the problem with getting them to, buy into the need for technology transfer, be it using new technologies or trying them out, or even just the whole issue of training and developing your own people, and with the turnover at the local level. So we talked about the need for leadership and better communication, and we did talk about some strategies, possibly, more information, trying to communicate up. Didn't come up with really a great answer for some of that.
Okay. It gets back to a little bit what Al was talking about, too, engaging that executive level. But you've also said all decision makers is what I heard. Any other thoughts about helping to address that challenge of having a shared vision in partnerships and leadership? Okay, well, that might be something we'd want to spend a little bit more time on as a group, is really thinking more about that and what strategies could be used. Okay, other barriers. And then we're going to move on to opportunities. So barrier? Okay, do I have one over here? I can't see because of the light. No? All right, let's look at opportunities. So we had half of the tables looking at what are some key opportunities presenting themselves and what strategies could we use to take advantage of them.
One of the opportunities that we looked at is tying back into the workforce, the gray hairs. I don't know if they were looking at me when they said that, but yeah, the no hairs too. But what we see is that there is a lot of grain in the workforce, and there's an opportunity there for mentoring to take some of the people that are out of the workforce that still want to have some kind of involvement and mentor other employees, the newer employees. And we believe that the new employees really would look forward to having some kind of relationship with somebody that could provide some mentoring. But we don't have a mechanism to match up these mentors. And maybe the educational model of where they do match up some of these mentors would be something that we could look at in the future.
Very good. Yes. Pat.
Hi, I'm Pat Lees. One of the opportunities is partnering with other federal agencies besides the U.S. DOT. And right now, the U.S. Department of Labor has one RFP on the street. They call them SGAs. But it's for $125 million called Community-Based Job Training Grants. And it's looking for partnerships between government, higher ed, the Public Workforce Board. And the proposals are due August 29th. This fall, there'll be another whole series of them. The one in particular interest to this group is on STEM. And I don't remember they don't know the amount of money yet. The other one, there's another one coming on construction and utilities. And now I can't remember the rest. There's 5 or 6 coming just this fall. So if someone in your organization checked the Department of Labor website regularly, and the Department of Commerce and Rural Development and Economic Development agencies, you'd have access to pools of funding and pools of partners.
Very good. Important, and that gets back to an earlier comment about the Federal Labs Consortium going beyond the walls of the DOT and looking at what else is out there. Yes?
Hi, I'm Linda from California LTAP. I'd like to talk about 2 opportunities because I think they're kind of interestingly connected with strategies. The first one is that an opportunity to build partnerships or to strengthen partnerships often comes from personal relationships between individuals. The strategy for maintaining the effectiveness of a partnership built on personal relationships is to plan for transition from personal relationships due to job change. So just wanted to add that in there, and one of the ways to plan for it is to add people onto your advisory board from both organizations so that we continue to build personal relationships across partner organizations. And that would mean that we plan for it up front, at the same time that we plan for various roles and responsibilities between partners. We know that those personal relationships are going to stop. The second opportunity I wanted to talk about was that informal sharing relationships across organizations may lead to an expanded partnership and a more formal partnership. The strategy for getting from an informal sharing relationship to a partnership could be by performing a gap analysis within partner organizations to identify specific niches and places where different kinds of relationships and sharing can occur.
Very good. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate those comments. Yeah. She's been waiting, and I've ignored her.
Oh, that's
sorry.
okay.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. This group had lots of good ideas. Some of them are consistent with the other groups. One of the opportunities we see is making sure that we do have open source files for all of the training materials that are developed, and then making those available or having those a place to share those in line with the library project that we had talked about. And in addition to sharing the training materials, we talked about sharing the mailing lists of the people that need to receive those and dates for training events and things like that. One of the interesting opportunities we found was that given the investment and the focus in training over the last few years, folks were saying we now find that we have a lot of overlap in the training and that's provided, and now we need to look for an opportunity to develop a plan so that we're not having quite so much overlap, so that we can make greater use of our resources that we do have available to us. The group felt that something that's working really well is when local groups, local LTAPs, TTAPs, universities find ways to take advantage and share the opportunity or share both web platforms or teleconferencing technology or the technical expertise to make those things work for them, because oftentimes in the smaller organizations there may not be technical people who can help make the technology work for them.
Very good.
The group also kind of echoed...
She's on a roll. Okay.
Yeah, lots of ideas. The opportunity to look outside the transportation community. I think we talked about that a little bit yesterday. For example, utility companies, and including them in safety and work zone training, AARP, the Governor's Councils on Physical Fitness for biking and running safety, things like that. And I'll try to just pick one more from the list because we got a lot of them. One of the opportunities we thought, especially yesterday during the sessions, I think all of the leaders mentioned the importance of communication around these technologies if we're going to get the word out. So we thought that we needed to find an opportunity to invest more in communication, training planning, marketing planning up front in the technology transfer process, maybe even at the stage of where we're identifying the technologies that we want to have shared more broadly, so that it happens more at the beginning of the process rather than at the end of the process.
Very good. You know, there was a lot mentioned, so she ticked through quite a number of opportunities. Anything, and we appreciate that, anything that wasn't mentioned, anything new? Deb?
I think so. This group actually had some kind of specific opportunities, all based, though, on looking at commonality of missions and needs of organizations and or individual programs. But one of the things was a key message marketing process. There was a poster that was developed for snow removal, for snow fighters, that was a partnership actually between SALT and Kansas that has been distributed I think quite a bit throughout LTAP, the way it sounded, but Kansas now has an idea for a couple of other key message posters that actually address a couple of other areas, which are Hey Flagger, an impaired driver poster that has 4 key messages for either drivers that might have drug interactions, either end of the age spectrum, either young or old, sleep deprivation, and distracted driver. The point here being is that what that does is that opens up for them the ability to look for other organizations that have key missions or needs in those areas, and it expands their opportunity for training to use. You're talking about the workforce retiring and so forth. You can tap into other organizations have massive training programs that might coordinate or have the same mission purpose as you, so tap into that. Those are types of partnerships that we need to be looking at as well.
Very good.
Another opportunity we had was whenever you are writing your newsletter, don't worry so much about filling it up with news in your area. Your folks may know about that. Steal from all the other newsletters that you read. Write one article that's about your area, and the rest of them are a synthesis of what somebody else is doing. Sharing credit is also one of the opportunities that we came up with. Whenever you find an organization that has somewhat of a core mission or purpose as you do, make sure that you have kind of like a credit box of who the partners are on there so that you can validate each other's efforts.
And we're going to have to, I think we're going to have one last. Yep.
That's exactly right. One last was an opportunity to make whenever I asked the question, who do you direct your training towards? And, you know, there are some specifics, but also there is a need to do marketing research, an opportunity to make sure that you target who you train.
Very good. Thank you, Deb. Well, we know that we've just scratched the surface. Anybody else who had their hand up that we didn't get to? I know there's a lot more that can be said, but did anyone have their hand up that we didn't get to? Okay. Yes, Clark.
I may have violated that, Cheri. I didn't have my hand up. I just put it up. And I just want to make a very brief comment. I think the opportunity session or discussion here, honestly, is right here in this room. The panel members representing the organizations, the LTAP officers, NTTD officers, and representatives from TCCC, the Transportation Curriculum Coordinating Council, met this morning briefly, and Ray Belk talked about that. Pat Lees talked about the Department of Labor and the great opportunity there. We're missing those opportunities. And believe it or not, this meeting the officers had this morning, the first time that I recall that those 3 groups in particular that really, along with many others here, representing organizations, met together to look at what Doyle talked about, a vision for the future. Right. And I'd really like Mary's comment over here about the time. I think we all recognize the demands on everybody's time, just trying to implement your own program and meet your particular constituents' needs. But at the same time, I think it's going to be incumbent on the leadership of these organizations to meet more frequently and to lay out some of these ideas and then provide 2 things. One, provide that leadership, and just putting those people in the room, it'll lead to the vision and meet the needs of technology transfer and workforce development. Technology transfer is about investing in people. And we keep talking as groups and individuals about the problems we're going to have in workforce development in the next generation and even in the next few years, and yet we're not pulling together as a transportation community to really address those programs. Department of Education has a program that's talked about career clusters. Transportation is one particular area. They're doing some things in the medical field. We're going to be competing against those other industries for that workforce. So between the transportation industry represented in this room, the Department of Labor, who has some focus and some funding, and the Department of Education working together, I think we can really start to prepare that next generation and do the things we're talking about today. So I would look forward to 2 things, probably. The officers, the leadership in these organizations having better collaboration, and a better way to get information out to you and your counterparts in your agencies and in your organizations. And somebody said Federal Highway over here. Federal Highway is going to be very much engaged in that as a convener and as a support mechanism. But it was those two thoughts I wanted to really, maybe the workforce development as well as the collaboration at the leadership level of the organizations, and then better mechanisms to get that information out. And frankly, we hadn't thought much about the library side. Somebody came up to Cheri and I yesterday and said, thanks Cheri for mentioning the L word. And that apparently is library. So we've got to start talking about the L word a little bit more. But anyway, I think those are some things I've heard, and I just wanted to say Federal Highway certainly is committed to meeting these challenges and addressing these opportunities.
Great. Thank you, Clark. That was a great summary of, I think, some wrap-up comments, and I did want to give that opportunity to any of our panelists. If you choose not to, that's okay, but wherever our panelists are sitting, if you choose to just say any quick observations, anything that you heard in this general discussion that you wanted to comment on, and we'll do this very quickly. Bonnie.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to take a minute and remind you that NACE has an annual conference. We have executive committees. We always invite our partners to speak to our executive committee to keep that. We've heard that time and time again. One of the key things that we talked about, opportunity, is just communication and that chance to talk to someone and find out their need, and then to see where it fits, what we have to offer, what someone else has to offer, and to sort of pull it together and to get it going. And we are certainly always open to that. That's what the partnership is all about, and that's what we look forward to working with you all and expanding that opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Bonnie. Ray, National Training Directors Group.
One observation that came from the table I was here at, great ideas. I think we're going to go somewhere. We're going to get it out there. But after that, we have to continue to follow up. What we're doing is dynamic. It's a continually living, breathing organism that'll take a life of its own. And the resources will have to be dedicated to make it succeed.
Well said. Any other? Dick? SALT Institute?
Thank you. I thought I would pick up on where Dwight talked about the vision thing, and there was mention here about go back and talk to your CEOs. They really need to understand it. I've told my staff, and perhaps you have a philosophy like this, that they should be thinking like CEOs. They ought to be mission-driven. They ought to be looking at what we're trying to accomplish. And both the barriers and the opportunities side, I think that's really what it comes down to. If we could just say, what is it we're trying to accomplish? We're not trying to accomplish what your advisory committees tell you needs to be done. You ought to be looking as a professional at what the mission is, which is to make sure that the transportation workers out there and the transportation managers out there have the understanding and the tools that they need to get their job done. And then everything flows back. Then if you say, look, we have in the state of Vermont, we have 650 snow fighter operators and 150 supervisors. What do they need to know? Do they have it? What do we need to do? That's the universe. Right now we're saying, well, we have 216 people who we've gotten into seminars. How do we keep them coming back next year? That's the wrong question. The opportunity is to look at the mission. Just a quick response over here. You say, get the competitors together and find out what a good price is on your road thing. Don't do that, because the next year they'll all be in jail, and then you won't have them. So it's very important to be sensitive. I used to work in government, and when I did, I thought, why doesn't the private sector solve all these problems? Why do they bring them and lay them at the feet of government? And sometimes it's because the rules of government say, competition being what it is, you can't do certain things collectively. We're very conscious of that.
Okay, thank you, Dick. Cheri? Yes.
Department of Labor. It's got some good information.
All right, Pat.
That's not true. I just want to say, if anybody wants to talk about the Department of Labor money, come over here when this is over, and I'll be happy to explain the projects to you.
Thank you, Pat. Great opportunity. Panelists, Bob or Bruce, any final comments? If not, that's just fine. I don't know where they went. Do I see them? All right. Where we're going, do I see them?
Cheri.
Okay, go for it. Bruce.
The one thing that I wanted to take and bring up to this group is that we have started the momentum to greater communication amongst our groups. We have got to continue building that, and the way that we can do that is by the action items that are coming out of this panel discussion. We're taking and talking about coordination, communication, and that's one of the things that we get from this type of meeting. And because of that, I'd like to thank both NTTD, TCCEC, LTAP, and TTAP, and all the other organizations that have been involved in this activity.
Appreciate that, Bruce. Thank you. All right. Well, it is important that we've started something here. We do have some ideas, and I think what's important is that we do have some follow-up, but it's got to be within manageable pieces. We're all pretty stretched, and I think what we are going to do is the recorders at your table, they're serving an important role in documenting those barriers, those opportunities, and some strategies, as well as the discussion that took place openly in our full group. So that will be a summary, will be prepared, that will be available on the FHWA website, and we are going to make them available to our panelists' organizations' websites as well, to have access to that. Then I think just having some discussion about what from these ideas could we build on, and that needs to take place within our partnering activities, both on a national level, but also within our individual states and countries and organizations. There are take-home pieces for all of us. So just, it's not just on the shoulders of others, but what can you take away from the ideas that were generated today? And we hope that you will, in fact, implement a few of those ideas. So what we would like you to do is we would like you to complete your evaluation, and when you are completed with that, just leave it at your table, and Ava Simpson will pick those up. So I wanted to mention that. And then also, very important, that we do thank our table facilitators and our recorders. We really appreciate your help. Thank you very much. I also wanted to thank Clark Martin and Roger Dean and Ava Simpson from Federal Highway. Were very instrumental. It took some logistics to plan this, so we appreciate your help. And then finally, our panelists, we really appreciate the preparation that they did to prepare those one-pagers, as well as their comments and keeping them to 5 minutes. That isn't easy to do, and they did it very well. So thank you, Ray, Bonnie, Dick, Bruce, and Bob. Yeah, the recorder forms. Okay, so after the recorders complete your summary, you can leave them, and both Clark and Ava will pick those up at your table. And with that, we go to break now for the next half hour, and we'll let you go. Thank you.